Sound check, test 1, 2. Sound check. Sound check.
Recording in progress.
I know every little helps and every little counts, but you have to plant the right tree in the right place, in the right quantity, at the right time.
They destroyed their watershed. By destroying the forest, they thought that they want to get firewood and so on, but they destroyed their watershed. It led to siltation and so on, and then their fresh water is no more.
So by the time envisaged to have a research center, because people just know mangroves as mangroves. People don't know the importance of mangroves. We want to have a literacy center to educate people. We want people to come and make research to know what we can use these resources for. And I'm so glad to have a future or a partner in this. Thank you so much.
On behalf of the management and staff of FCMB, it's our pleasure to welcome you to, of course, this beautiful location, which forms part of the bank's activities to commemorate the World Environment Day 2021, one of the most significant days across the globe.
The Dangote Industries Limited and its subsidiaries take environmental sustainability very seriously. We understand the critical importance of preserving the well-being of the environment and the need to support the global effort of combating global warming and climate change.
At Union Bank, environmental responsibility and conservation is very important to us. And this year, we decided that we should do more with our partnership with the NSCS. We've been members for years. So this year, we're very excited to be taking our employee volunteers out to be part of the tree planting exercise in line with this year's theme. It's all about taking action, and we don't take that for granted.
So Optimist International is also interested in the environment and seeks ways to help improve our planet by planting trees, teaching women to grow gardens, and also supporting women to take up recycling as a means of financial empowerment.
The Nigerian Conservation Foundation, with the support of National Park Service, trained 50 park rangers of Okomu National Park, Edo State, in March 2021 and empowered 240 members of neighboring communities through 2 separate intensive capacity building workshops. The core objective of the training was to improve the security and tourism infrastructure for the effective management of the park. Some of the items donated were drones, walkie-talkie, binoculars, GPS, computers, new uniforms, patrol motorcycles, among others. This was done with the financial contribution of the European Union and the African Caribbean Pacific group of states through the Biodiversity and Protected Areas Management Biopharma Program.
Yeah, my name is ACP Innocent Asuko. I am the coordinator of the NCF Biopharma project in Okomu National Park. First and foremost, they carry out capacity building for the rangers. About 50 of them, they were trained in security anti-poaching patrol operations in the field. 12 communities were selected randomly. About 140 women, 100 men, and 100 youths were empowered. Starter items like fish, fingerlings, and their feet. Then, of course, the 4 weeks old chicks, as well as their feet, were also given out to them to start with. And of course, in the area of capacity building, they have also empowered the field officers in the area of security. Such they provide drones, 3 drones, 30 binoculars, 30 GPS, 5 GPS, 30 walkie-talkies, 2 laptops, and of course, and a complete full kit uniform supplied to them. This is to ensure that they carry out their duties in the field effectively. Aside from this, the Biopharma Interventionist Program also refurbished patrol vehicles, went as far as electrifying the ecotourism aspect of the park to boost ecotourism protection in management in the park.
Today's programs mark another relationship within the Okomu National Park and the coastal communities. And the Biopharmans also, a few months ago, communities were called or trained on the fingerlings, fishes and birds were also given. So it is a thing of joy to every of us, especially those of us from different communities, to be invited to be part of what is the good thing that's going on within these conversative environments. It is my privilege to also express my views that gradually for the past years we are not recognized, but within the shortest possible time now, the presence of all the cluster communities were recognized and were invited to be part of the trainings and the retrainings and the skill acquisition that is also going on to train some of our women, some of our youths, and a lot of farmers as well who are beneficiaries of what's going on. So it is my great joy to say a big thank you to the head of this department, especially in Udo, Nokomu, and all the workers as well. So I want to say thank you.
Okay, I am Mrs. Petra. I represented the Gomu community. So the program, it was very helpful. At least I learned a lot. Even if as I go anywhere, I'll be proud of what I learned from here. It's a very good program and it has helped me a lot. At least fishing and farming of chicken and so many things that was taught. So I think any community that participated will be proud.
It is indeed a mixed feeling of genuine joy, a deep sense of humility, and a very singular and rare opportunity that I play host to a federal minister. Okumu National Park, just as you are already aware, is one of the 7 old national parks in Nigeria. To the intervention by biodiversity and the protected area management program to provide technical and operational support to the park service, Okumu National Park, that we are gathered here today to witness the outcome. Allow me to briefly inform the Honorable Minister again that Okumu National Park has been and continue to be the brainchild of the Nigeria Conservation Foundation during the park's incipient phase as a wildlife sanctuary under the Edo state government, before it eventually metamorphosed into IUCN Category 2 protected area and taken over by the federal government. Since then, NSCS, through its various resort-oriented programs, have continued to collaborate with the National Park Service to jointly turn the fortune of the service around. Today, Nigeria Conservation Foundation, through the action component of Baopama, choose Okumu National Park in order to continue to nurture its poster child to by donating feed and security equipment to the service to galvanize effective feed operation in the park.
That's why we as development partners, we need to come together, especially in the face of increasing challenges confronting biodiversity conservation and practice and protected area management globally. The Biodiversity and Protected Area Management Biopama project, made it possible by the NCF-IUCN partnership with the support of the National Park Service, is an initiative of the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific countries, financed by the European Union's 11th European Development Fund, jointly implemented by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, aimed at improving the long-term conservation and sustainable use of natural resources in priority protected areas and surrounding community, surrounding support zones community. The Biopama Action Component activities provide equipment and tools for data, that is for biological security and protection, infrastructure, ecotourism, and information management, as well as services for improving the knowledge and capacity for protected area planning and decision-making, funding opportunities for specific site-based actions for which we are gathered here today.
Protected Area Management, which is the Biopama, a project in the Okumu National Park in Edo State. The Biopama program, as I have been made to understand, is an initiative of the Organization of African Union Caribbean and Pacific states, financed by the European Union 11 European Development Fund. It's part of the EU Biodiversity for Life flagship initiative, which supports effort to halt the loss of biodiversity and ecosystem services.
I see this and the way they are having the not used. We want to see them that they are getting tired, and that's why we also want we just buy the motorcycle, but also buy the spare parts to ensure that it's going to do the work. So there are 10 of them, and we have the office equipment as well. One of the drones is what is being operational because we want remote sensing as well when it comes to. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's the. We have one of the binoculars, and this is the GPS. That's why we have the GPS here. Yeah. This is a drone. One is already operational. And then that's the these are the uniforms, the PPEs or the that's the fingerlings. 5,000 fingerlings. Yes, for catfish and their feet, and the catfish feet. And the laptops are here. Yes, let me do laptops. And then we have Motorola walkie-talkie for easy communication.
Testimonies of the members of the host communities and comments from the government officials we earlier had are testament to the effectiveness and impact of the Biopharma program on Okomu National Park. Through this initiative, and on the strength of the NCF invitation, the Minister of the Environment and Conservator General visited the park for the first time since its establishment.
Edition of the Chief Shafi Lawal Edu Memorial Lecture. All right, let me quickly tell you that the Chief Shafi Lawal Memorial Lecture is a flagship advocacy tool of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. Quickly welcome, please all stand. Let's quickly welcome the chairman of the occasion, Chief Philip Asiodu, President, NCF BOT. It's good to have you, sir. All right, while we remain upstanding, we'll take the national anthem. So like I said initially, you're all welcome again to the 19th edition of the Chief Shafi Lawal Edu Memorial Lecture. So before we continue with today's program, let me quickly recognize our guests in our midst. We have the chairman of the occasion, Chief Philip Asiodu, President, NCF BOT. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you very much, sir, for coming. We appreciate your presence. And we also have in our midst Chief Ede Dafinone, Chairman, National Executive Council, NCF. Thank you very much, sir, for being a part of this. We have here with us Dr. Muhtari Aminu Kanu, Director General, NCF. Thank you, sir. And our guest speaker, she joins us virtually. She is Ms. Simangele Msweli. She's a Senior Manager, Youth Leadership Program at the African Wildlife Foundation, and she is based in Kenya. Please put your hands together for her. She can definitely hear you. And we have next in our lineup of recognitions, we have the Chairman, Managing Director, Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mr. Esimaje Brinkin, General Manager, Policy, Government, and Public Affairs. Please put your hands together for him. Is he here? Thank you so much for being here. He's a sponsor of today's memorial, Chevron rather, is a sponsor of today's memorial lecture. So we have next Mr. Gboyega Edu, a representative of the Chief SL Edu family. Thank you very much, sir. Please put your hands together for him. And also, council members of the Nigeria Conservation Foundation. Are they here present? Okay, let's quickly move on. We have amongst us Kafaya Quadri. Please put your hands together for her. Kafaya Quadri, thank you very much. Rere Olua Ukitola, are you here? Brilliant, good to have you, young lad. And Dr. Joseph Onoja, Director, Technical Program, NCF. Thank you so much, sir. And Mr. Uchenna Achunine, Director, Business Development and Communications. Good to have you here, sir. And also, let's also recognize our live fellows of the NCF, Professor Paul Ananaba, and Mrs. Margaret Akinshefumi, and Mr. Olakunle Fafiola. Thank you all. Thank you for being here. And we have Mrs. Ibironke Olubamishe. Thank you, ma'am. And Samuel Jato. Thank you for your presence. And also, let's not forget the gentlemen of the press here. We appreciate you all. And to our other distinguished guests that I'm not able to mention, we appreciate you all. Please put your hands together for yourselves. Thank you for being a part of this program. So like I rightly introduced earlier, the Chief Shafi Lawal Edu Lecture is a flagship advocacy tool of the Nigeria Conservation Foundation, and it is an annual event organized by the Nigeria Conservation Foundation in collaboration with late Chief Edu's family and with the support of Chevron Nigeria Limited to honor the founder of NCF and godfather of the conservation movement in Nigeria, Chief Shafi Lawal Edu. Well, in order to ensure strict compliance with the COVID-19 protocols, the lecture is a hybrid event, like we already know, where we have both the physical and virtual. So other invited guests and members of the public are joining us via the Zoom meeting platform. And also, let's not forget that the event is being streamed live on YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So right now, we just have a short clip to play for you to talk about ecosystem restoration. Enjoy.
Today, We are using 1.6 Earths to give us what we need to live, eat, and grow our economies. We are plundering and polluting nature's resources, treating it as a dumping ground for plastic and waste. If we don't act now, we could lose 1 million species in the next few decades. Like we would lose our coral reefs, which will impact fish first, then fishers, then entire economies. But it doesn't have to be this way. What if I told you there's a solution? It's called ecosystem restoration.
In progress.
Healthy ecosystems regulate our drinking water and carbon, which are the backbone of life on Earth. All living things need carbon. Trees store carbon, so does soil, and seagrass in the ocean. Even the human body is 18% carbon. But as ecosystems become weak, they release carbon instead of storing it. Look at the soil below your feet. Healthy soil grows 95% of our food. But pollution, climate change, and pesticides are making soil less productive. And when yields go down, instead of restoring, we expand. Till more land, turning wild places into farmland, and pollute healthy soil. When we lose forests, wildlife is forced to come closer to humans, bringing what's called zoonotic disease, a virus that is passed between animals and humans, like bird flu, Ebola, and COVID-19. But there are some actions we can take today. Growing trees in cities would help to cut pollution dramatically. They would filter and cool the air, improving our health and reducing global warming. But trees can do more. Look at mangroves, for example. For each dollar we spend on restoring mangroves, we would earn $4 as they protect our coastlines from storms and floods. Building economies around nature will create jobs for the future, jobs that you could have. Restoring ecosystems will not be simple, and it will not be easy. But together, we can do it. We are calling entrepreneurs, thinkers, leaders in your family, school, and workplace to get involved. Can you do your part too? Reimagine how and what you consume. Recreate your relationship with the planet. Join Generation Restoration. Be a part of the solution.
Please, you can do more than that. Put your hands together for that short clip. Yes, while we were having our recognitions, let me quickly recognize also among us a life fellow of the NCF, apologies, Yeye Agnes Shubajo. Please put your hands together for her, please. Thank you, ma'am, for your presence. Okay, so we're moving on to the next line of our agenda, which is an introductory remark by the chairman, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Dr. Mokhtari Aminu Kanu. Please put your hands together for him as he comes on stage.
Thank you very much, MC. I want to recognize the President Board of Trustees of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Izoma Philip Asiodu, Chairman of the National Executive Council, Chief Ide Dafinoni, Representative of Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mr. Esimaje Breaking, Representative of the Chief Edu family, Mr. Boyega Edu, and NCF Live Fellows, our awardees, our spoken word presenters, school children, and everybody, people online, and gentlemen of the press. It's really a great day for us. Those who are part of the NCF family know that we hold the Chief SLA Do Memorial Lecture at the beginning of every year within the first 2 weeks of January. And this is to set the scene and have a discourse that actually drives through the year. So those who are familiar with that tradition, I'm sure will find it odd that we are meeting here in August, which is almost towards the end of the year. But then, it's not so odd when they see the times we are in. We are in a global pandemic, and everything has changed. And part of the reason we are in the global pandemic is because we have not taken care of our natural environment. The loss of nature and climate change, twin evils that are two sides of the same coin, have driven us to something none of us have ever seen in our lifetime, that we are now in the middle of a global health crisis. And the experts warn us that there will be more and more of this, and they will be more and more intense unless we take care of the natural environment. So that's why we are holding this event in August, but it's also auspicious because we chose a special day in August. Today is the International Youth Day, and we deliberately chose this day to focus on the role of youths in environmental stewardship and environmental conservation. And the theme of our event is the theme of the World Environment Day, which is the theme of the UN Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. But also the theme of the International Youth Day is something about reimagining agriculture and the role of youth in planetary health and other issues. So planetary health and agriculture are very closely related because one of the major reasons why we have the loss of nature and deforestation is because we are doing our agriculture wrong, and we have to reimagine and reorientate how we do our agriculture. NCF has a long history and tradition of engaging youth, whether it's in setting up school conservation clubs, university conservation associations, youth groups in communities, or holding marches and rallies across various cities in Nigeria, where youths have been the vanguard in raising awareness on climate change and environmental degradation. But we have just recently adopted a new strategic plan which will guide our organization for the next 5 years, between 2021 and 2025. And the key pillar of that plan is our recognition that we have to strengthen partnerships. We have to bring everyone on board if we are to achieve the objectives of NCF and of conservation and tackling climate change. And who among segments of the society is really most important to bring on board, I think, is the youths. For one, it is their future we are messing with when we bring about environmental degradation. But for second, they actually have the energy and the technical savviness and the information at their disposal that some of us in our old age do not have. So they are uniquely placed to contribute and make a meaningful contribution in order to address environmental conservation. And luckily, I think more than people of my generation and older, I think the youth get it. They get the environmental message, and much more than some of us, and they are doing things about it. So we hope in this lecture you will hear about some examples across Africa and specifically back home in Nigeria of youths actually showing what you can do in order to address environmental conservation as a youth and what they are doing to contribute to it. And I hope everyone will sit up and listen, and that those who are in a position to do something will take the message that is coming from this event. Thank you very much, and sit back, relax, and enjoy.
Please, a warm applause for the Director General, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Dr. Mutari Aminu Kanu. Thank you very much, sir, for your introductory remarks there. Well, it's short and precise, and he's telling us why we're here, knowing that the environment is witnessing some significant changes, and we have a lot to do on our part as youths, which we are celebrating today, International Youth Day. So the next we have to join me to welcome is the Chairman, National Executive Council, and he is Chief Ede Dafinone, to give us his welcome address. Please put your hands together for him as he comes on stage. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. The President, Board of Trustees of the NCF, Izoma Philip Asiodu, National Executive Council members of the NCF present and joining us by Zoom, the representative of the Managing Director of Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mr. Esimaje Birkin, representative of the SL Edu family, Mr. Boyega Edu, members and fellows of the NCF, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, our dear vibrant youth, and ladies and gentlemen of the press. I'm pleased to welcome you to another edition of the annual SL Edu Memorial Lecture. The NCF lecture series was instituted in memory of our founder, late Chief Shafi Lawal Edu, nearly 2 decades ago, and serves as a rallying point for germane public discourse on topical environmental issues of national and global interest. This year's lecture, the 19th in the series, is apt and timely in so many ways. Principally, following the declaration of the 2021 to 2030 as a decade of ecosystem restoration by the United Nations, there's been a lot of movement in that direction. In line with this, NCF decided to hold this conversation aimed at bringing the youth to be the key drivers of the global decade-long project on ecosystem restoration, hence the theme today, Youth and Ecosystem Restoration. We reasoned that the best day to engage the youth on such an important discussion is today, as the DG said earlier, August 12th, 2021, which is actually International Youth Day. This year's topic is very important to us because we seem to have severed our relationship with the ecosystem, with the earth, and with the planet. We are plundering and polluting our natural resources, treating our planet as a dumping ground for plastic and other waste. It has been projected, and it was shown in a video earlier, that we could lose up to 1 million species in the next few decades if we don't act now. Unfortunately, there is no plan B or planet B where we can move to in the future. Interestingly, there are some actions we can take starting from today. We have gathered different voices with different messages on actions we can take individually and collectively to recreate our relationship with the planet and restore our ecosystem. From Nairobi in Kenya to Abuja, Calabar, Lagos, and elsewhere, different African voices in different forms are challenging us to take action. The discussion today will be led by the charismatic young conservationist and activist Simangeli Misweli, who is Senior Manager for the Youth Leadership Program at the African Wildlife Foundation. She will be joined by 3 young conservationists who will share impact statements from the work they are doing around ecosystem restoration. A 12-year-old will lend his voice to the clarion call on all of us to take actions to restore our ecosystem. The promotion of conservation messages and actions as far as the NCF is concerned must be deliberate, strategic, and target-driven. Hence the memorial lecture instituted to awaken the curiosity of the public and further the advocacy efforts in achieving an attitudinal change in dealing with our environment. Our efforts towards restoring Nigeria's forest cover under the Green Recovery Nigeria initiative had almost 2 million tree seedlings planted across the country. This was made possible with the support of the federal government, corporate organizations, and international partners and funders. As an organization that believes in collaboration, we continue to strengthen our relationships with both local and international partners. I must say that our vision, a Nigeria where people prosper while living in harmony with nature, remains a motivating factor for us to deliver on our mission. Everywhere across the nation, we continue to see opportunities to make an impact, effect change, and mobilize people to action. I want to reinforce the message the DG delivered a few minutes ago, that the youth get it. Greta Thunberg, the young Swedish environmentalist, was asked in a recent interview why the younger generation was more involved in issues of the environment than the older generation. She responded by saying that the older generation do not feel that the impact on the environment will affect their lives. This attitude is being proven to be unfounded as each passing year the world experiences record-breaking natural disasters that are attributable directly to climate change. At NCF, we feel the need to combat this challenge holistically by engaging every sector of the economy, every strata of the society, and most importantly, all generations. The main reason we are focusing on the youth today is to drive the new message, involve them in the activities that will call the attention of more people to both the challenges and possible solutions. Today's event will also see us using this occasion to give an award to 2 deserving students of a grant worth 2 million naira to support their projects. It's my pleasure to welcome you once again to the lecture today. Thank you.
Chairman, National Executive Council, NCF, Chief Ede Dafinon. Thank you very much, sir, for the welcome address. Please put your hands together for him once more. Indeed, there are actions we can take starting from today to recreate our relationship with the planet and restore our ecosystem. Next we have is the chairman of the occasion and the president, Board of Trustees, Chief Philip Asiodu, to give his opening remarks. Please put your hands together for him as he comes on stage. Thank you, sir.
First, I must begin by apologizing for keeping you, making you about 15 minutes late in starting, thanks to unpredictable driving manners in Lagos. I think some trailer and one truck decided they must kiss, and of course that closed 3 lanes. And you know, in Lagos, once you have a 2-lane road and there is a little obstruction, you have 5 lanes immediately, and nobody can move. So I'm very sorry. Now I must welcome virtually our guest speaker, and then members of the National Executive Council of NCF. I don't think there is any other trustee here. We have to do something in NCF too to rejuvenate, you know. Now, fellows of NCF, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, of course, gentlemen of the press and media, and our dear few representatives here of our vibrant youth. As the chairman of the Executive Council and the Director General, I've told you, we've been holding the Chief S.L. Edu Memorial Lecture for about 20 years now. This is the 18th, and it has served as a flagship of advocacy for the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. And since the beginning, 2003, when we set it up to honor the founder of NCF, and I see that he's now described also as godfather of NCF. I'm afraid, you know, the connotations of godfather these days in Nigerian politics, but that's not what we mean. The real founder. And if I may say so for your interest, he decided to do this because his friend, Prince Bernhard of the Netherlands, got him involved in WWF Worldwide and Netherlands. And of course, he became a member of the board. You can't be a member of the board and not much is happening in your country. And this led him to get people together and start the Nigerian Conservation Foundation and lead it and pilot it. And I'm glad he did so, because we are surviving since 1982 or so. I remember the inaugural dinner in which President Shehu Shagari formally inaugurated the NCF. And of course, other heads of states following have been our patrons. Now, as I told you, we've successfully had 18. I was a bit wrong. This is the 19th. I think so. The 19th memorial lecture. And these have helped to bring to the fore pertinent environmental issues, and it's helped us to advocate for solutions to those issues using our renowned speakers. And on behalf of the Board of Trustees of NCF, the National Executive Council, and members of NCF, I'm delighted to join in welcoming you all to this edition of the lecture. It's another opportunity for important and urgent environmental conservation discussion. Another opportunity for mobilizing action towards saving our world by salvaging it from total destruction. A lot of destruction has already occurred. And maybe, for a fact which you may remember, at independence, Nigeria had about 35% forest cover. As we are gathered here today, it's reduced to 3% because we have failed to implement even laws established under colonialism, that when you log, you replant. But poachers, in collusion with traditional rulers and other people, have gone, and of course corruption in the forestry. They've logged, they've put false stamps on the logs as if this was legally done and would be replanted. And of course that wasn't so. And now that technology is enabling them to go even to the impenetrable forests. I was very alarmed a few years ago, driving between Ondo and Akure, and almost every 200 meters, there was somebody doing logging. And of course, some, unfortunately, Chinese people behind the background, ready to, against our laws, on processed timber, shouldn't be exported. Now, but this year's theme, as the Director General told you, is youth and ecosystem restoration. And this is because it's absolutely necessary to integrate youth into the mainstream of the drive and the effort to restore our ecosystem. And there is no better date, as the Director General explained, since we missed our January date, than today, which is International Youth Day. And we couldn't find a better speaker for this occasion than the very lively South African youth activists, young. Permit me, some of us are yesterday's men. But when I speak about youth in the context of positions in government and policy, I'm talking about people from 25 to 67. Because I believe at 67, you still have 10 vigorous years left for action. Of course, youth also includes people in younger than that. And I'm glad they are represented here today. Now, since, as you've heard, the WWF and world organizations proclaimed 2021 to 2030 as the decade of ecosystem restoration. And this was adopted by the United Nations General Assembly. Now, any organization and any country which is passionate about having an impactful result in conservation efforts must bring the youth on board. Now we, in NCF, right from the beginning, we've recognized this need. And we have been successful in establishing conservation clubs in schools, not only in schools, in institutions at the 3 levels: primary, secondary, and tertiary institutions. And we've always supported youth groups and any programs aimed at helping us to restore our degraded environment. And this is one of the reasons, as you've been told, we are having here today with us 3 young conservationists who will be sharing their knowledge and experience in conservation, and how, as young people, they have lent their efforts to make impact, positive impact, in restoring our degraded environment. It's great concern when we look at our environment today, especially for us who were already very conscious and active before independence. And we are moved to tears at the level of degradation, the loss of wetlands, desertification, fast disappearing forests, and of course, the poor arithmetic that prevails in our country today, where some people think that what we could do when there were only 20 million Nigerians, we can still be doing when there are 210 million Nigerians, and we've not added space. The earth has not increased, Africa has not increased, Nigeria has not increased. So when I was in elementary school, we were under 20 million. Now we are 210 million. And certainly our way of life, our utilization of the environment must change, must bear this in mind. And so I hope that the current national dialogue on forest grazing and that sort of thing will end on a positive note. We cannot take Nigeria back to the time of Muhammad and Jesus and Moses. You know, we must use modern technology, modern discoveries to live. In fact, you know, many times it has been said, if in order to develop, we're to replicate what they did in Northern America, the United States in particular, we will need 4 times planet Earth to accommodate the present population. And if we continue this way, and population is still growing, it will grow dramatically in Nigeria, because we are still growing at just under 3% per annum. And you need to reach a certain level standard of living for people personally to decide that if they have 2 or 3 children, they must be able to bring them up properly. And I think we pray that we reach that threshold soon. And so that our population will not, as projected, reach 1 billion before the end of the century. I hope it will taper off at about 350, 400 million, which we can still manage. Because I think India is 3 times the size of Nigeria, but currently it's 1.2 billion people. So we don't want to repeat that if we can. So the good news is that there is a solution. The solution is ecosystem restoration. We must be part of that solution and not part of the polluting elements. The time to act is now. And therefore, I call on everyone who's tuned on from all over the world by Zoom, and those of us here, and especially the youth and the young adults, to rise to the challenge, tackle the issues. We are pleased, I must recognize with gratitude, with the cooperation we've received from Chevron Nigeria Limited, and the Chief SLADU family in hosting the lecture for the past 18 years. This year's focus on youth is also a deliberate effort to get them become more involved in a radical and practical way in restoring the ecosystem and saving our world for their future and subsequent generations. The NCF is willing to provide a platform. We must be available to take our destinies in our hands. And despite COVID, I'm happy that we've defied the limitations. We've continued to be available. We've used all available platforms to bring us together to chart a course for the cause of conservation. And I look forward, we all look forward to a very informative, educational, and inspiring lecture. And I thank you all for honoring our invitation. Thank you for listening to me.
Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Do I need to help you?
No, we also need some restoration.
Indeed, we all do need some restoration. Please put your hands together again once more for the chairman of the occasion, Chief Philip Asiodu. Thank you very much, sir, for that opening remarks. And indeed, let's also have in mind that from what he said, the time to act is now. Taking a cue of what we've been hearing in the news of recent about human activities causing so many changes in our environment. We are all wearing face masks today because of human activities. We do not understand why, but that is the new norm now. We're all wearing the face mask due to COVID-19. What about climate change? These things are happening because humans have altered part of the land and oceans, which is why we need to discuss this matter, and we have to do so much on this. We have the youths in our presence today to enlighten us on what steps we can take if we're to restore our planet for the next generation. So indeed, from what Chief Asiodu had rightly pointed out, the time to act is now, and the 19th edition of Chief SL Memorial Lecture is another opportunity for mobilizing action towards saving our world from total destruction. Let me quickly tell you that the Chief Shafi Lawal Ed Memorial Lecture is sponsored by Chevron Nigeria Limited, and this is a demonstration of the company's commitments to responsible environmental stewardship. So please put your hands together as we welcome the chairman, Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mr. Esimaje Breakin, General Manager, Policy, Government, and Public Affairs, to deliver his goodwill message. Please put your hands together for him as he comes on stage.
The president of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, well-respected Izoma Philip Asiodu, CON. The chairman, Nigerian Conservation Foundation National Executive Council, Chief Efe Ede Dafinone, the Director General of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, and every other National Executive Council member present here physically and virtually. Special guests, gentlemen of the press, our guest speaker, who will be presenting virtually, Simangeli Msweli, the CEO of the African Wildlife Conservation in Kenya. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen of the press, I welcome you all to this event. Just a point of correction, I'm not the chairman of Chevron Nigeria Limited yet. I am the General Manager for Chevron's Policy, Government and Public Affairs. Please. I bring you greetings from the Chairman Managing Director of Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mr. Rick Kennedy, who couldn't be here today. I can tell you the Nigerian Conservation Foundation is very dear to Chevron for many reasons. One of which is what Chevron stands for, conserving the environment and ensuring that nature, remains to really support human life. I am delighted to be at this 19th Chief S.L. Edu Memorial Lecture today, just like many of you are. And on behalf of Chevron Nigeria Limited, I thank you all for finding time from your busy schedules to attend this event, which promises to re-energize us individually and collectively to work towards the conservation of the environment. Significantly, it is worthy to note that Chief Edu's vision for establishing the Nigerian Conservation Foundation has continued to flourish long after his death. I commend the President and members of the Board of Trustees, management and staff of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation for sustaining Chief Edu's vision and making the Nigerian Conservation Foundation a strong institution and a foremost authority in nature conservation in Nigeria and beyond. We are glad to be associated with this enduring vision on nature and environmental protection. The topic for this year's lecture, Youth and Ecosystem Restoration, is very apt as it seeks to discuss the recovery of the ecosystems that have been degraded or destroyed, as well as the conservation of ecosystems that are still intact through youth engagement. Healthier ecosystems with richer biodiversity yield greater benefits for humans and other habitats. Chevron has the vision to be the global energy company most admired for its people, partnership, and performance. We are transparently committed to advancing a low-carbon future, one that meets the global needs of all people through affordable and reliable, ever cleaner energy towards achieving a more prosperous and sustainable world. For more than 20 years, we have maintained mutually beneficial relationship with the Nigerian Conservation Foundation because the foundation has proved to be a worthy partner. This partnership has produced commendable projects geared towards conserving our environment and building Nigeria's economy. One of the projects is the Lekki Conservation Foundation, popularly known as the LCC, which is where we are today hosting this event. This was built by Chevron in 1992. Today, the Lekki Conservation Foundation has become one of Africa's most prominent and most diverse urban parks. It attracts tourists from all over the world. The Lekki Conservation Foundation is also known as a safe habitat for several species of plants and animals going extinct and has attracted several educational researchers. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we are proud to support the annual Chief S.L. Edu Memorial Lecture and sponsor a research grant scheme in memory of Chief S.L. Edu. We believe that to sustain our environment, there's need for continuous research to garner new and better ways to preserve nature. In this regard, since 2006, through the S.L. Edu Education Research Grant and in partnership with the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Chevron Nigeria Limited has continued to award scholarships to doctoral candidates whose research works are on environmental conservation and sustainable development in Nigeria. About 30 PhD students have benefited from the grant since its inception. Chevron Nigeria has also partnered with the Nigerian Conservation Foundation on the annual Walk for Nature, event designed to create awareness about nature conservation and good environmental practices in Lagos State. As I continue the giant strides of the NCF, as I commend the giant strides of the NCF, and other stakeholders, I would also urge every one of us to make a personal commitment to preserve our environment, which is more threatened now than ever before. I believe that with the right sensitization and advocacy, we can collectively protect our earth. Chevron Nigeria has enjoyed its partnership with the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, and we continue to provide support and contribute to nature conservation and sustainable development of Nigeria. I thank you all for listening, and I do hope that we all will enjoy the guest speaker very well in this event. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, Mr. Isimaji Birikin, General Manager, Policy, Government, and Public Affairs, Chevron Nigeria Limited. Apologies for the earlier mix-up there. Like they rightly say, maybe it's a promotion level, but all the same. Thank you very much. And let me quickly introduce that he's representing the Chairman, Managing Director, Chevron Nigeria Limited, Mr. Richard Kennedy. Please put your hands together for Chevron Nigeria for sponsoring the Chief S.L. Edu Memorial Lecture. Okay, so indeed, this is not just a memorial lecture. We are going to having a language of the youth, which is the spoken word and poem presentations on conservation and ecosystem restoration. So let's welcome Kafayat Quadri as she comes on stage to give us her presentation. Please put your hands together for her.
Hello. Is it clear? Good morning, everyone. My name is Kafayat Quadri. I'm very happy to be here today. The cameramen are directing me to stay in the middle. Thank you. I would like to say a few words with regards to the ecosystem. I'm a lawyer. I'm also a teacher, apart from being a professional musician. I think that one of the reasons why we do not see the importance of climate change is because we think that the earth and the climate is separate from us. It's not separate from us. We are the same with it. And when everything is beautiful, within us also will be beautiful. And when we travel, I don't know if you guys are observant, when you watch videos on Instagram and on YouTube, and you see some of the foreign countries, and you see how beautiful their nature is, it's not because they are just more beautiful, it's just because they take time to take care of their nature, of the trees, they plant, they care for animals and the rest. And I think it's something that we can all do. It all has connection with the feminine energy. If we can all be a bit slower and calmer, the way nature operates, then we will see that we'll find it easy to restore back our ecosystem. The title of the song I'm going to sing is Times Are Good. It's like a prayer song that connects all of us and tells us that whatever it is that we create within us is what we can also create outside. know the times are good if we look within our souls. We'll know the things to do if we searched around our lives. We'll know the times are good. What you become is up to you. Just be yourself and stay true. Not half empty, but half full. When time stops, no one has a clue. When you fall in love, be a fool. Lie in the sand and watch the moon. And everything is beautiful and true. In everything we do, if we look within our souls, we'll know the things to do. If we searched around our lives, we'll know the times are good. If we look within our souls, we'll know the things to do. If we searched around our lives, we'll know the times are good. Times are good. Thank you very much.
Please put your hands together for that beautiful rendition. I'm sure I can't even try to play a guitar, but that was a very lovely one. Kafaya Quadri really enjoyed that lovely presentation. Thank you so much. So as has been highlighted earlier, today is the International Youth Day, and this year's Chief S.L. Edu Memorial Lecture, Youth and Ecosystem Restoration, was informed by the United Nations Declaration of the 2021-2030 as the Decade of Ecosystem Restoration. But before we continue with what we are to discuss today, let's quickly recognize before us a council member, Nigeria Conservation Foundation, Dame Marie Fatai Williams. Please put your hands together for her. Thank you very much, ma'am, for your presence here. So now we are here for the Chief S.L. Edu lecture. And so to give us a lecture on this year's theme is a conservationist from South Africa with interest and experience in scientific research, policy engagement, as well as community and youth engagement. And she holds a Master of Science in Biological Sciences from the University of KwaZulu-Natal and is based in Kenya, where she serves as Senior Manager of Youth Leadership Program at the African Wildlife Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Ms. Simangele Nsweli as she gives us a lecture on the theme Youth and Ecosystem Restoration. Please put your hands together for her. She joins us virtually.
Good morning, good afternoon, colleagues. A special greetings to the family at the Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Chevron Nigeria Limited, the family of Chief SL Edu, as well as all esteemed guests. Can I please ask the host to allow me to share my screen? As I await that, I would love to take this opportunity to allow us to reflect 19 years ago. If we look now, almost every day, issues of conservation, climate change are being covered. But there was a time when they didn't get as much priority as they deserved. As a result, I will take this opportunity, first and foremost, to honor the legacy of a leader whom, when it was not such a high priority as it is today, to speak about nature conservation and sustainable use of natural resources, he was actually talking about it and become part of founding and establishing the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. Now, to start off, a lot of colleagues and speakers who came before me have defined what is ecosystem restoration, but I will do that again. So it's a process of assisting in the recovery of an ecosystem that is either partially degraded or has been totally destroyed. For a lot of us, depending where you come from, we are more familiar with the restoration of forests, but this process can be done across different ecosystems. We see this in rivers, we can have it in the oceans, in coral reefs, in the mangroves, as well as in grasslands. And I would love to emphasize that restoration should not be confused with afforestation. In one of the earlier videos that played, one of the speakers was saying, you need to plant the right tree at the right place and in the right quantities. So the simple act of planting trees, while it's not better on its own, it does not equate to restoration. If you are planting trees in an area that was historically a grassland, that's afforestation because you are establishing a new one. So I wanted to make that distinction clear and a step ahead. Of course, we are all not in person, so some of the things you won't be able to respond to them. But I would love to invite you to think of this. You're welcome to write your responses in the chat box or keep them to yourself. If you look at these two pictures, which one is most likely to give you clean water for drinking? Which one is most likely to have food for you? You can go fishing and actually find something. Which one are you most likely to go swimming with your friends or family in? Which one would you go on vacation and spend your well-earned money on? For most of you, chances are the response was A. And this is to emphasize that we restore ecosystems because our very own existence rely on having healthy ecosystems. We restore them to conserve the species that we have, to secure livelihoods, make sure that we mitigate and adapt to climate change, and of course, because our economies depend on them. But how did we get here, right? So we need restoration because we have degraded our systems. And unfortunately, even today, we continue to do so. If you look at one of the IPBES reports, you will see that about 87% of wetlands have been lost worldwide, and 54% of that happening since 1900s. You can see that the same trend is happening on the terrestrial side of things, that over the past 300 years, more than 50% of the land surface has been altered. Now, the question is, if we are aware of all these challenges and we are aware of what is at stake, that we are losing our livelihoods, are we doing something about it? Is Africa doing something about it? Well, the answer is yes. There are perhaps a lot of other documents, but for today I chose this one. This is the Pan-African Action Agenda on Ecosystem Restoration for Increased Resilience that was adopted by African countries in 2018. Now, it's interesting when we start seeing signs of political wills, because it also gives us, it shows us the commitment of our governments, but it also gives us resources and a framework to keep them accountable. Now, what's interesting in this document, if you can see one of the points that I've highlighted in red, one of the milestones that have been put in is that Indigenous peoples and local communities, women and youth will be proactively engaged in the development and implementation of ecosystem restoration policies, projects, and programs in all member states. Well, this shows that there's political will. But secondly, are we seeing real commitment that is quantifiable? The answer is yes again. This is an example of one of the initiatives that various African governments have committed themselves into, AFRI-100. What this picture is showing you are some of the commitments that the countries have made with regards to the amount of forest that they would love to restore by 2030. We can see that Nigeria, for example, the commitment is 4 million hectares. We have countries like Ethiopia where it's 15 million hectares. You also have countries like South Africa, where I come from, where it's 3.6 million hectares. But this diagram also shows us that not only are these commitments being made, financial resources are also being mobilized to implement these programs. And you can see some of the resources that have been mobilized so far. But also, just to clarify, this doesn't mean that the countries that haven't made commitments so far are not doing anything. There's a lot of reasons why they haven't. For some of them, it's countries that historically do not have a large cover of forest anyway, since this is an initiative most affiliated with forest. Now, we've seen that there's political will, and we see that there's real commitment to put numbers into it. But are we seeing any action on the ground? I know we can all agree that more could be done, could be improved, but we do have a good case studies of what's happening in Africa. What you see at the top is an example of initiative that, for example, the African Wildlife Foundation is involved in Ethiopia, in the Simien Mountains, where it involves the restoring vegetation. We've also heard of the work that's happening earlier on in Nigeria. Also, if you're based in Nigeria and you read the news, you'll probably have heard of the project that was launched or pronounced last year, the Mangroves for Life project, aimed at restoring the mangroves ecosystems. So again, while the challenges are dire and are there, this shows us that there is some action happening on the ground. But are young people involved? Are they playing their part? Before I respond to that, I would love us to recognize that in 2019, 60% of the African population was below the age of 25. Now in Africa, we're all aware that according to the African Youth Charter, the youth bracket ends at 35. So close to 70% of the African population is around being under 35. That's a very big number. This means as young people, we make up majority of the population. This is both a challenge and an opportunity, right? A challenge in a sense that we continue to contribute into the degradation of the landscapes, but an opportunity in a sense that we have heard that this generation of young people is the most educated. It's an innovative generation. It's connected to technology. So we are well placed to turn the tide, to choose a side and be part of restoring our ecosystem. Now, the great thing is some young people in Africa have already started. There is often a narrative that young people in Africa do not care about societal issues. they care about entertainment and so on and so forth. But I would love to take this opportunity and say, actually, we have a lot of young people in Africa who care, who are doing actions on the ground to restore our ecosystems. Now, I'm making an example with some of the young leaders that we profiled as part of the top 100 Young African Conservation Leaders initiative. This is an initiative that is pioneered by the African Wildlife Foundation in collaboration with WWF, with the World Organization of the Scouts Movement, and the Africa Alliance of YMCAs. These leaders will share their stories later, so I'm not going to steal from them, but I would love to do this to emphasize that there are already a lot of young people working in the ground, that for anyone who wants to start, there's lessons and role models to learn from. And for anyone who's still convinced that young people in Africa are not taking this seriously, to see that young people are actually taking it seriously. Well, I'm not going to share stories of these leaders. I will share a story of one leader who won't have an opportunity to share this story for themselves today. Daniel comes from Tanzania, and along with other friends, co-founded an enterprise in 2014, and is also part of the top 100. Now, the enterprise generated revenue through hosting tourists to Rau Forest, a forest that hosts a lot of species, including colobus monkeys. But part of their initiative is to restore degraded parts of the forest through one of their initiatives, and they have a nursery on site. This is an example of young people mixing the need for economic development, sustainable use, as well as conservation. And you can easily find this enterprise on TripAdvisor to book to do one of the tours. But again, for another young person who wants to engage, are there opportunities to do so? The answer is yes. And here I've just shown a few examples. One of those is the platform for the UN Decade on Ecosystem Restoration, which allows you to choose an ecosystem you are interested in, be it learning more about the mountains, about the desert, about the coral reefs, and it shows you the trends of the degradation that's happening. And upon request, you are able to get lessons of what can you do in your context to contributing to restoration. We have programs such as the Land Accelerator, the Restoration Stewards Program, that actually onboard young people, give you training on restoration, assist you to write your proposal for a project, and also provide financial resources to implement the project at hand. These are just a few of the examples that are out there that I've put up and are actually currently open for applications. As I draw towards the end, I would love to say to fellow young people, saving our planet, lifting people out of poverty, advancing economic growth, these are one and the same fight. We should not be advancing economic growth at the expense of our own livelihoods. And this is a quote, of course, from one of the former Secretary General of the UN. I am aware that young people cannot do this alone. They work with partners, with governments, and with organizations. And for various partners, I would love to emphasize the following. We are part of an intergenerational mission, and our success relies on our ability to equip upcoming generations to take on the baton. Now, this is a very important message because we are all not mortal. We have seen the tendency to hold on into power, to hold on into resources in the continent. But if we are to achieve the Africa that we want, we need to recognize that this is not all about self-enriching. It's not just about ourselves. It's ensuring that there's systems, resources, and everything in place to equip upcoming generations to take part in creating the Africa that we want. Now, as I close, I would love to emphasize that youth commitment coupled with effective youth engagement will bring us closer to a world where ecosystems are restored and therefore providing livelihoods, climate resilience, and sustainable economies. And I'm happy to see today that the Nigerian Conservation Foundation is already doing effective youth engagement, because effective youth engagement goes beyond recruiting young people to join your campaign and take the placards that you've created and put them on the street to protest. It goes beyond that. It's about being intentional with building their skills, investing in their skills. And one such great initiative is the Chief SLLD Research Grant, where we're going to be seeing some recipients getting this grant to pursue their PhDs. That is what we call effective youth engagement. One of those is a program we run at the African Wildlife Foundation, where we train young people to be filmmakers and videographers and give them access to grant. That's part of what we call effective youth engagement. So, as well explained by colleagues and leaders before me, we are at a time where this youth energy is critically needed, but as well as the contribution from organizations, governments, the private sector, and every other stakeholders, because issues of ecosystem restoration are about our livelihoods as well, and are about ensuring that Africa has sustainable economies. Thank you so much.
Tanzania is my home.
Malawi is my home.
Kenya Midlands is my home.
Kenya, Swaziland, Senegal, Ghana is my home.
My Africa is immensely rich in plants, animals, in landscapes.
I care about trees in Kenya. I care about elephants. Water.
Zamba na disaya.
Bubble trees.
Waste management.
Species in the next few
But sometimes I feel like there's nothing I can do.
Cependant,
Je sais que je ne suis pas seul. Il y a des millions dans le monde comme moi
qui veut faire de la différence.
Protéger la planète.
Plant more trees.
Increase the forest cover.
To take care of nature. Sensibilizar a população.
To create a better world.
Especially for us young people.
The future is ours. There's no planet B.
Where we can move to in the future.
Eu realizei que há problema de água. Eu quero resolver o problema usando mais água reciclada.
Le changement est possible.
Et chaque action compte.
Ensemble, nous sommes
des jeunes acteurs dans la conservation.
Le protecteur de l'environnement.
La jeunesse du 21e siècle.
Come together for change.
Não só para nós, mas também para a geração futura.
Mes frères et sœurs, votre avis compte.
Faites entendre votre voix.
Connect to us. Et sauvons l'Afrique.
Let's save Africa.
Let's save Africa.
Let's save Africa.
I hope we enjoyed a little bit of what that message was passing across, although it was a bit loud. Well, I think we're able to understand why we're here. So far, it's been an interesting conversation. Would you agree? I'm not having any response. Am I the only one talking to myself? Are you sure? So who can give me an insight of what we have discussed today? Let me just start with that. At least we had as Mangele give us a lecture. Anyone who wants to try? Or we should just go on with what we have? Okay, let's quickly go on with what we have today. All right, let's understand that a number of Nigerian youth are actively engaged in initiatives that contribute positively to the conservation of Nigerian environment through laudable programs focusing on agriculture, food security, wildlife, waste management, and many more. Well, last year, 13 young Nigerians were nominated by the NSCS, were among the top 100 African Youth Conservation Leaders awarded by the African Wildlife Foundation, African Alliance of the YMCA and World Scouts Movement, and the WWF. Now, 3 of these young conservationists had initiatives that focused on ecosystem restoration and are here to share their impact stories on ecosystem restoration at this lecture. Please put your hands together as I call on Omobola Eko to share with us her story on youth and ecosystem restoration. Please put your hands together for her.
Good afternoon, everyone. Standing on existing protocol, I count it a great privilege to be invited here to share my impact story in forest ecosystem restoration. And there's no better way to start than to, go back to how I began. I started, I was an undergraduate studying forestry and wood technology at the Forestry Department of Federal University of Technology, Akure. And like many students then, I did not actually accept forestry. I didn't start, accepting forestry, to study, because it's not like as popular as medicine and surgery, engineering, microbiology, and many other courses, because of the perception we have then that it does not offer, employment opportunities. But then, during my one of my first classes in the department, one of my lecturers came to introduce us to the principle of silviculture. And right there, it was lamenting about how the forest cover of the country has been depleted and how this has drastically affected biodiversity and then the entire environment. And I began to look into this thing, and I decided that I was going to make something significant out of forestry. And that was how it all began for me. After graduation, I started a career as a forest nursery entrepreneur. I began to make trees available to people at affordable prices so they can, beautify their environment. I began to take up projects for orchard establishment and plantation establishment and management. Gradually, that was in 2016. And in 2019, I decided that I was going to do more because I realized that I have developed interest in forest ecosystem restoration, particularly in Nigeria, my country, and then extending it to the rest of West Africa, so as to enhance forest health, improve biodiversity, and also improve wildlife habitat quality. So doing this, I founded a non-profit, a youth-led non-profit organization, and our main focus is advocacy in tree, we advocate tree planting as the cheapest solution to, one of the cheapest solutions to climate change. And we have been doing that, pardon me, I have a little bit of slide prepared. I would really love for it to be displayed. Thank you. Okay, so, and we embark on projects like climate education. We go from school to schools, making sure the younger generation, they understand what is called climate change and how tree planting can be beneficial to, mitigate the impact of climate change. And we do that. We go from school to schools. Up to date, we have visited 63 schools, educating over 20,000 students in Lagos State and Ogun State. And also, we have embarked on advocacy, climate change, nationwide climate march. And this we have done 3 times in Lagos State, and then this has been replicated in 7 different states in Nigeria, including Taraba State, Kaduna, Abuja, Lagos, Abeokuta, and a couple of other places. And also, most recently, we have shifted our advocacy to promoting indigenous trees. And one of the reasons why we are doing that is because one of the reasons was actually mentioned earlier, that for tree planting to be effective, for tree planting to be effective, these trees must be local, must be native to the environment. For tree planting to be effective, as an effective climate solution, the right tree must be planted in the right place and for the right reasons. And why indigenous trees? Because they thrive well in their local communities, and because the environment is actually is natural to them and is more suitable for their growth. And then they also play vital role in biodiversity conservation, because many other species actually depend on a particular tree, birds, insects, bees, and even down to the tiny microorganisms we cannot see. They all help one another in the wild. So we focus more on promoting indigenous trees. And this, most recently, we have embarked on forest restoration project. We tagged COVID-19 Memorial Forest. And the first of its kind was held at Port Harcourt, at the University of Port Harcourt. We planted 2,000 trees, indigenous trees, at the University of Port Harcourt. And we actually target COVID-19 Memorial Forest because we want to, commemorate with the people that lost their lives to COVID in Africa. And as of January, we from the reports, we estimated that, okay, about 69,000 people have died to COVID in Africa alone, and the number is yet increasing. So we decided that we are going to plant these trees in different locations in Nigeria, and we have done that in Port Harcourt, and we did that also in Lagos during the last Lagos Tree Planting Day. We established another kind of the COVID-19 Memorial Forest at Badagry. We were supported by the Lagos State Forestry Department. We also established nurseries, and up to date we have raised 215,000 plus trees, and we hope to continue in that, to continue to raise more indigenous trees. And given my career path, I desire to scale up advocacy to further influence favorable policy for sustainable forest management in Nigeria and throughout West Africa. I and my team, we will keep doing our best to contribute solutions to forestry, natural resources, and environmental challenges as we battle against climate change. And I agree with Semangeli and the chairman of this occasion. They say that the time to act is now. Our environment has been, degraded, and we can all see the impact all around us. We don't need any more scientific proof to make us to convince us about the impact of climate change, and the time to act is now. We just need to keep on planting more and more trees, because scientifically it has been proven that trees, they help to absorb climate change. They help to absorb carbon and offset the yet increasing carbon emission in the atmosphere. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Omobale Eku. Please put your hands together for that wonderful presentation by Omobala herself. Indeed, like she said, the time to act is now. We need to keep planting more and more trees, not just for today, but for the future and for the next generation. Well, next we have with us to share her impact story on ecosystem restoration is Mohammed Dakpanchi. Please put your hands together for her. For him, apologies. Please put your hands together for him as he comes to the stage.
Good afternoon. After observing existing protocol, I don't have the capacity to mention all names here, but I will first of all like to appreciate this organization for finding me worthy to be part of this occasion. I also like to pray for the demise of Chief Shafiul Lawal Edu for actually conceiving this idea, because without that, his sacrifice, we would not have the privilege to be here today. My name is Abubakar Muhammad Dakwenchi. Sorry, my use him. I don't know, it's because probably because of the word Dakwenchi. I'm from Niger State. My journey as a conservationist actually began when I was a youth service corps member in Jigawa State, Dutse to be precise. I was privileged to be the president of Environmental Protection Community Development CDS group. And during my era, I launched a tree planting campaign in Jigawa State, Dutse to be precise, as one of the key challenges I observe within that environment, the issue of desertification. In my time, I was able to launch 1,000 tree planting project we named Project PAT, Plant a Tree. After my youth service, I sat within myself and I asked if I can actually do this in an environment where I'm expected to serve, then why then I should continue from that path. And then that actually led to the creation of my platform named Better Environment Vanguard. Better Environment Vanguard is an indigenous platform that advocates for greener and sustainable environment, promoting community tree planting through public awareness campaign and community development service. Through my platform, I've been able to visit communities, individuals, and also religious leaders to take the campaign of community tree planting to their doorstep. Because everybody is aware, I must say everybody that is here is aware of the issue of climate change, deforestation activities. But the major problem has been, how do people get informed of the consequences of these particular problems? A lot have been said since years have gone. People say a lot about environmental degradation, but this awareness taken down to the local people, that is where the problem lies. People sit, discuss, and then provide solutions, but it doesn't actually get to the grassroots. So I believe these activities have been actually taken by people who to some extent don't even know the effect of this climate change. What they know is, let me just cut down these trees and then have a short-term benefit, which to me, I feel is a wrong thing to do. My sensitization actually take me to schools to revive the issue of students planting trees as legacy projects. I've actually visited a number of schools in my community to educate them on the need to plant more trees. I've actually visited religious leaders, Christians, body, and also Islamic bodies, to tell them the need to plant more trees, because I believe religious leaders have a greater influence to influence the people. They have large congregation. I've actually let them know the need to put it into their sermon to plant more trees. I've actually made also youth groups to educate them on the need to have legacy community projects. Just like we are all known, those behind us in the past always have what they call community service. You see people taking off drainages that have been blocked. Those things are no more. So in my effort, I've actually educated people to know the need to plant more trees, at least one tree in your own name, to be able to contribute to enhancing a greener environment. Part of the things I've always tried to tell people is the need to see that in any environmental crisis that occur, people are the first victim. And therefore, people need to understand that regardless of any effort government want to put in place, you must actually see that your environment is well protected before any intervention at any phase. I've also let people know that contributing to environmental issues is a shared responsibility. People must understand and know their role of what they need to do and how they need to act. And this is what I want every one of us here to do. If I must ask today, that number of us seated here, who among us today, maybe probably this year, have actually planted just one tree? I don't know. If anybody is seated here can actually confidently say, at least during the duration of this year, I've planted just one tree. You can see from the numbers, I think the young ones, nobody is raising up their hands. I'm surprised because I believe we have the capacity to change the mindset of the people. And if we cannot start now, there is no time to start. And this is what I have always told people. You cannot change the world without changing your own self first. I must confess to you that today, I cannot actually count the number of trees I've planted. Because to me, I feel this is an action I need to take that must actually lead and then tell people the right thing to do. I also want to tell the congregation here today that there are challenges that we, the youth, are facing. One, the kind of mindset that we have is not encouraging. The youth need to understand that we need to change our mindset first before things to come. We need to understand that in the stages of life, as this stage that we have learning process, we also have earning process. That earning process means what you reap. What people used to say that what you sow is what you reap. And if you haven't contributed today, then there's possibility that tomorrow, either you or your next generation will also benefit. The right platform for youth to also achieve their goals is limited. I want to appreciate this particular platform, NCF, for giving us this platform because this is what is actually lacking. A lot of youths have ideas, but they don't have the right platform to project these ideas. If we are given the right platform, we'll be able to do things beyond what you think or what you see us doing now. I also want to say something in the aspect of political will. There is need for government to understand, to empower youth who have vision to change the narrative. There is need for people to understand, stakeholders to understand that youth have the capacity to transform the future. And this is part of what we are doing that they need to encourage. I also want to suggest that in addressing conservation issues, we must understand that we don't just speak and identify problems. We should understand that there must be alternative measures. Most of these people that engage in cutting down trees, what are they doing? As a result of what? A lot of people will tell you from my engagement, will tell you that they don't have enough fuel, so they actually engage in this for them to get money. Is there any alternative measure to offset these people from these activities? No. They will tell you that they don't have means to do that. There is another thing I've also observed also, is the use of space technology to address conservation issues. There is need for us to understand that the use of technology to reach hard-to-reach areas, where there are encroachment, the need to use space technology to address this issue is key. Lastly, I've always ended in my engagement with people that there is need for us all to take action in combating climate change by planting more trees. To encourage afforestation, reforestation, and also discourage deforestation, we must plant, nurture, protect, and befriend a tree. My name still remains Abubakar Muhammad Dakmanshi. I'm encouraging you to plant at least one tree, just one tree today, to be able to enhance a greener and sustainable environment. Thank you, and God bless you.
Indeed, the call is getting louder. We need to plant at least one tree. Please put your hands together for Mohammed Dakpanchi for that insightful presentation. Next, we have to deliver a presentation is Nella Duke Ekpeyong, represented by Abidemi Balogun, to tell us an impact story on ecosystem restoration. Please put her hands together as she represents Nella Duke Ekpeyong.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm representing Nella Duke Ekpeyong, the CEO of Obudu Conservation Center, a wildlife NGO located in Obudu Plateau, Cross River State. OCC works closely with the local communities in the region to protect restore, and increase awareness of the wildlife and wildlands in the Obudu region, which runs into Cross River National Park and Cameroon's Takamanda National Park, a biodiversity hotspot. OCC has launched various community-led initiatives to systematically empower local communities and restore natural landscape. The Women's Woodlot Reserve Initiative was launched in November 2017 with the aim of preserving the aeroplane field forest and its natural spring grotto on the plateau, which have witnessed severe degradation and vulnerability as a result of activities such as deforestation, pollution, bush burning, and cattle grazing. The forest is home to the last fresh source for the Opazange community and wildlife in the forest patch, including many endangered and endemic species, such as the Bannerman weaver and Cameroon greenbow. Finally, the forest acts as an attraction on the cattle ranch to fuel tourism in the region. The Women's Woodlot Reserve has successfully increased the protection of forest, the last freshwater stream, and its dependence. Impact. With the collaborative efforts of the community volunteers and OCC staff, in March 2019, OCC completed phase 1 of the initiative, which involved clearing the essential section of the reserve area and conducting the fire tracing to prevent bush fires. In August 2020, OCC progressed into phase 2 of the initiative, the reforestation program, with the goal of planting 50,000 trees by 2022. This phase seeks to create a man-made forest at the top of the forest by planting fast-growing indigenous trees, including the Carapa procera, Madagascar species, and Isobelina doca. Economically, the leaves and fruits of the trees planted can be used as vegetables and the wood as timber for local community members. From July 2020, a total of 13,000 seedlings have been planted by the OCC and local communities. Some of the challenges: the reserve continues to face anthropogenic pressure ranging from firewood collection, saplings exploitation, bush burning, and cattle encroachment. Although OCC is receiving a lot of support from the Opazange community, there has been a rise in the encroachment from other surrounding local communities. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Abidemi Badolgu, for standing in for Nella Duke Ekpeyong. Please put your hands together for her. All right, we're gradually coming to an end of today's memorial lecture. But before we wrap up, I'm not so sure if you all will have questions. Does anyone have questions for our guests before we move on to our next item on the agenda? Questions for our guests or comments? The floor is open to you all now. Do we have questions? Do we fully understand why we're here? Gentlemen of the press, you should have questions now. We are not just gentlemen of the press without asking questions. I am a press woman, but let me hold my question for later. Let me leave it for those who are... Okay, let me ask my own question then. My question goes to the DG NCF. Yes, now we are talking about ecosystem restoration. Not many understand the true value of what we are here. I don't mean our participants here. I mean majority of Nigerians don't even appreciate the value of plants, of trees. Now you say, okay, plant a tree. Ensure that we do not, cut down trees and expose ourselves to the dangers that it poses. For instance, if you cut down a tree, you allow the tree not to absorb all the carbon sink that is injurious to man. But how far have you gone in terms of sensitizing the average Nigerian youth? We've heard the likes of Omobala Eko, we've heard from Mohammed Dakwanchi, but how far have we gone to reach the grassroots? Because that's what really matters. If you go to most communities, you have lots of litter. People don't even understand when you litter things like this, you expose yourselves to some dangers that are not good enough for the environment. How much is being done to sensitize those who are in the grassroots? We are here now, we all understand, but the grassroots too matter. What is being done to reach those who do not understand the value of what we're talking about today? Yeah.
All right, thank you for that question. I think my short answer is yes, it's really the core of our work. We've been doing that for close to 40 years, but is it enough? No. And have we sensitized a critical mass of people to take action? Again, the answer is no. And that is why we need to talk to so many stakeholders who reach the parts that some of us are not able to reach. So the partnership with youth, the partnership with religious leaders, as Mohammed Dapchi mentioned, is key. The partnership with traditional rulers, and the two Chief SLA do lectures before this, that's the one for last year and the year before, we're trying to address some of that. We had the Sultan of Sokoto here last year, who gave the lecture on the role of traditional rulers and how they can be effective agents in mobilizing the grassroots. The lecture before that was from an internationally distinguished religious leader, Reverend Palmer, who is based in the UK, who talks about how globally the religious community is being mobilized. But it's not enough. We do things in schools, as you've heard. We do things wherever we have a project. We have a community mobilization and engagement strategy. We work with community-based organizations. And all of that is in a bid to go beyond us, the elites, or the urban people, or people who speak English, or listen to radios and TVs to really penetrate the grassroots. But we think this renewed partnership and mobilization with people on the ground, like youths and youth groups, community development associations, and so on, and religious leaders, and chiefs and traditional rulers, is really the way to go. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director General NCF. Thank you very much, sir, for that response. Any more questions, or do we move on? Okay, madam, please ask a question.
No, mine is not a question, it's a comment.
Okay.
And a charge, so to say, to the young people, today being International Youth Day. I believe that right now in the country, there is a dearth of volunteerism in the youths. You can't get them to actually volunteer to do these kinds of things when they look at it and say, what does it put in my pocket? Because we have a problem of unemployment and lack of gainful employment for the young people. So like what the guest speaker said, I saw another third way, enterprise kind of something, make some of these things, this climate reparation, like an enterprise thing that you will also be repairing the environment, but you will also be doing something that brings you some form of remuneration. Like I know of there's something called Plastic Bank, Plastic Bank International is an enterprise, but it is cleaning the oceans and it is helping the volunteers to make some money. So we could look into that. Maybe NCF can look into this area and see how we can get sponsors or what we can get as ideas to be able to do these kinds of things and attract more youth, but also to charge the youth through Mobilaiko, whom I'm sure has had problems having young people volunteer to do what you do so well. How do you get more volunteers? How do you want to get them to come and to do what they want to do? If we look back to Chief Eseledu, who did a thing like this so many years ago when he was the age he was, and we are here today celebrating him and this, how many more have we gotten that are coming, that are young people that are ready to plant in where they cannot reap from or gain from, but to volunteer for the good of the climate and the world? This is a charge to the youths. Today is International Youth Day. Mohammed has said we should plant a tree. The other lady came and said we should, of course, you have been planting indigenous trees, you know. How far have you gone with encouraging more youths to do something on a day like today, International Youth Day? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dame Marie Fatai Williams. She's also a council member of the NCF. Thank you very much, ma'am, for that comment. Mobala, you would like to respond? Okay, we'll have... Okay, go ahead, please. Go ahead. Please give her the microphone. Your name, please, ma'am.
Thank you very much. My name is Ronke Olubamiche. I'm back home, actually. And one of my challenges has been that I see a lot of development going on in Lagos State. It is welcomed and it is very, very desirable. Unfortunately, I'm always so concerned when I hear that one wetland, majority of wetlands, especially along these axes, are being converted to buildings and companies and all that. I know NCF is doing so much to sensitize the nation, to engage in policy and advocacy, but I still want to throw it back to NCF, the premier NGO, when it comes to environmental issues in Nigeria, that what are we doing? What can we do? I am interested if there is anything we can all do about it. That is my question. Then, of course, thank you very much, ma'am, for the aspects that you brought about to charge the youth about turning their interest to an enterprise. I know of an organization that is actually looking into that currently, and I would not mind to work with the NCF to be able to get youth who are interested in turning. Of course, it's not going to give you millions immediately. It is not about giving you millions immediately, but it is about giving you livelihood while you are also protecting the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Questions? Okay, we have one at the back.
Thank you very much. My name is Gabriel Enicha, a student of Alamo Senior High School. In my school, we engage in plastic recycling in order to conserve the environment. So we students, we do gather plastics, take it to the recycling center. So, and for over the years now, for about a year and some months now, we do take plastics there for recycling. So, but the issue now is that, what should we do? Because the recycling center where we take plastic to, after the period of a year and some months, they are supposed to pay us our dues, but they don't pay us. What should we do as a student now, as a school? What should we do to those people who don't want to pay us after taking our plastics there for recycling? Thank you.
Thank you very much. So who do we direct your question to? Who would love to answer him? We have seasoned guests here. Or do I tell, okay, ma'am, please give us a response to that question.
Maybe looking back might be difficult, but way forward is you look just like what they do in Plastic Bank. You drop your plastic, they wait, they pay you, and you let it go. If they don't pay you, then don't drop it, because you've got to drop it in exchange for something. I know that the Minister of State for Environment came here some time ago and said to us that some states in the north, what they do, when the women bring this plastic, they exchange it for like jero or millet or something like that. They don't drop it and go and come back and say, I want my millet. No, you give me the millet, I give you the plastic. Simple, trade by barter, yeah, more or less.
Okay, Director General wants to speak.
Thank you. I think it brings to the fore the fact that we don't have a structure and system in the country yet for recycling and so on. It's beginning to be established. We have a policy adopted by the federal government. We have the food and beverage sector who have an organization for extended producer responsibility that is looking through the whole value chain of recycling, from collection to, well, from sorting to collection to taking to the factory to recycling and so on and so forth. But the system is just beginning to be established, and this is something we are looking at NCF ourselves. How can we, and that's a weak link in the chain, about how do you incentivize households, A, to sort their waste, and then B, to dispose of it in a way that the collectors will not take too much effort to collect. And then the collectors taking it to the point where it is collected and get paid is another part of the weak link. And the system is being set up, it's not yet there. These are some of the gaps in the system. But I want to assure you that it's being addressed, and NCF is interested in partnerships on those.
Hope that answers the question. Any more comments, questions? The floor is open. Okay, Bola wants to speak.
I would like to respond to what Mommy mentioned earlier about how to encourage youths to participate in forest restoration, ecosystem restoration. Actually, it's not a very popular field, and it takes a lot of determination to go that way. And particularly for a lady like me, it's very exerting. It's a very strenuous kind of thing. You get soil, you get seeds, you get to process them, you get to raise them. It's a lot of process. But I'm glad that through some of my efforts, a lot of other youths are being inspired to do something in that respect. And also, I mentioned earlier that there's a perspective that many forestry students, they have about forestry, that there's no much employment opportunities in the field, and they get discouraged even before starting. There's currently there's a launch that will be taking place today on a book published by IFSA. That's the International Forestry Student Association body, and they were supported by IUFRO. They're building a successful forestry career in Africa. And I'm one of these, my story is one of the story featured in that book. And yeah, it's a way of encouraging students and youths generally to be able to see a future in restoring the ecosystem, because right now is what that's the center of attention right now globally, because the ecosystem has suffered a lot from anthropogenic activities, from development and stuff. So now youth should be encouraged. They should also be motivated to do it, because there might not be many people like me who would do that without any form of motivation for a start and later and just see a future in it. But I would like to plead with our fathers and our mothers and our leaders generally to help to encourage youth. For instance, if a youth has taken effort in raising seedlings, there should be a financial equivalent that will be given to them for that seedling raised, as some sort of motivation to be able to continue in that respect. That way, we are all working together, we are all collaborating to ensure the sustainability of the environment. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Any further more questions? Okay, it seems we have come to the end of this segment. So we're moving on now to the next part where we get to award the Chief S.L. Edu Memorial Research Grant Award. And this grant, I'd like to state, is sponsored by Chevron Nigeria Limited and seeks to promote research works in nature conservation, biodiversity preservation, environmental management, and sustainable livelihood. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the awardees of this grant, Mrs. Ibironke Olubamishe and Samuel Jato. Please put your hands together for them. And to let me quickly invite Dr. Joseph Onoja, Director, Technical Programs, NCF, to give a citation of these awardees.
Standing on an existing protocol, please, I will ask Samuel, please, may you remain standing as I read your profile. Samuel is a PhD student at the Postgraduate College, University of Ibadan, pursuing a program in forest management. His research is titled Forest Structure, Woody Species Diversity, and Basis for Joint Forest Management in Omo-Shasha Olua Forest Complex, Nigeria. Assesses the tree species distribution, examine the intensity of distribution and its effects on the stand diversity and structure, as well as investigate the prospects and challenges of joint management of forest resources on the study site across Omo-Shasha Olua Forest Complex, located in Ogun, Ondo, and Osun State in Nigeria. The outcome of the research will assess the tree species distribution across the forest to provide information for management of the species diversity and composition, determine the intensity of disturbance and its effect on the stand diversity and structure of the study site, consider the prospects, ascertain the challenges of the joint management and factors that can enhance the community participation in the management of the OSO complex. The President, sir, and the Chairman, I here present to you Mr. Samuel Jatu for the award. This Miss Ibironke Favor Olubamishe is a PhD student at the Postgraduate School, Nigerian Defense Academy, Kaduna, pursuing a program in environmental management. Her research titled Assessing the Effectiveness of Community Initiative for Environmental Restoration and Policy Development in Nigeria examines the achievement and impact of community environmental initiatives in Nigeria, identify gaps, why these impacts do not translate to policy development, and assess the potentials of this initiative for policy decision and development, amongst other objectives. The outcome of our research will help draw more attention to environmental resources and biodiversity conservation issues that will enhance replication and scaling up of the successful initiative as had been experienced in piecemeal. The research will also review the possible solutions, actions to be taken by all stakeholders to ensure these initiatives continue to contribute to local, regional, and national policy development and to meet government obligation for multilateral environmental agreements to which the country has subscribed to. I present to you Ibironke Olubamishe Favor. Samuel, please can you join me? Yes, can you stand on that? Samuel. Yes. Stand on this. All right, congratulations to our recipients, please.
Please put your hands again together for our recipients of this award, of the Chief SL Edu Memorial Research Grant Award. Thank you very much for that delivery there, Dr. Joseph Onoja. So we still have more lined up for you today. We have a 12-year-old Rere Oluwa Okitola to deliver his spoken word presentation. Please put your hands together for him as he comes on stage. Encourage him.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rirololu Okitola, and the title of the spoken word I'm about to render is Save the Ecosystem. Save me. Save me. Save the atmosphere from greenhouse gases. Save the air from fossil fuels. Save the forests from deforestation. Save the water from acidic pollution. Save me. Your life depends on me. If I die, you die. So also all the living things. No! I am supreme. I am powerful, strong, and intelligent. I am wise in device. I am man. Kill it. Kill the wild animals. Bushmeat are rare delicacies. Cut them. Cut the trees. Split them to make furniture. Burn them and cook. They are plenty and cannot be emptied. No. Don't cut them. Don't kill them. Don't kill the earth. The earth cries each day through signs of global warming. All of us see it, hear the signs, but few hearken to the cries. A tree is essential and valuable than just to make food and furniture. There is oxygen from plants in every breath we take. The quality of oxygen 40 years ago is incomparable to now, and if nothing is done, it will be worse in the next 40 years. Feasting on wild animals make them go extinct, and sometimes causes pandemic, and many dies. Only when the last tree has died, the only river poison, and the last fish is caught before we realize we cannot eat our money. Imagine if trees gave Wi-Fi signal. We would have been planting so many trees to get more, but too bad. They provide the oxygen we breathe, and we don't care. Let us nurture the nature so we can have a better future. Nature is our treasure. Let us save it by planting trees and conserving the world. If you think you are too small to make a difference, you haven't spent energy with a mosquito. Be a part of the solution, not part of the pollution. A nation that destroys its soil destroys itself. Thank you.
Please put your hands together for 12-year-old Rere Oluwa Oketola. That was a brilliant presentation. I'm sure it really sunk some message deep in the minds of many who heard you today. Please put your hands together for him. Thank you. It's good to encourage our young ones like this to have passion for the environment. If we do not have them around us, who will? Because they are able to sensitize their peers and educate them that this world we're living in is only one. Someone was telling me the other day that if we pollute our environment, the only best option we have is to fly to Venus and Mars. And who will afford it? The rich. How many of us can afford to fly outside this planet? So if we do not protect and keep this planet that we call home, there isn't any other one for us. So as much as it is, some would say planting trees, what is in planting trees? This simple act goes a long way to protect not just for today, but for the future. So I'm glad to be a part of this memorial lecture. I hope you all are. and we've learned quite a lot. So let's quickly wrap up. We are going very quickly, and next on the lineup is a presentation of a plaque to the guest speaker of today's event, Ms. Simangele Msweli, and to do that presentation is the Director General of NCF, Dr. Mokhtari Aminu Kanu. Please put your hands together for him. So who is picking up her plaque? Okay.
Okay. I think just before the formal vote of thanks, we have a tradition in these lectures to present a plaque in appreciation to our guest speaker. Now, unfortunately, she cannot be with us, so I don't know how to do this, me physical and her online, but at least she can see it, and we'll find a way to get it to her in Nairobi. So if you can zoom in, this is a plaque. I'm going to read what it says. Yeah. Okay, so this is the plaque. It says, Award of Excellence, presented to Ms. Mangele Msweli, Senior Manager, Youth Leadership Program of African Wildlife Foundation, as the guest speaker of the 19th Chief S.L. Edu Memorial Lecture, delivered on August 12, 2021, signed by Chief Philip Asiodu, President, Board of Trustees of the Nigerian Conservation Foundation. So we'll find a way to send the plaque to Mr. Mangele. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right, we are gradually coming to the end, or we've come to the end rather, of today's 19th edition of Chief S.L. Edu Memorial Lecture. And to give us a vote of thanks is Mr. Gboyega Edu, representing the Chief S.L. Edu family. Please put your hands together for him as he comes on stage.
Good afternoon. The Director General, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Dr. Aminu Kano, the Chairperson, National Executive Council, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Chief Ide Dafinoni, the President, Board of Trustees, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, Izoma Philip Asiodu, the representative of Chevron Nigeria Limited, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the family of Chief S.L. Edu, it gives me great pleasure to thank you all, but most notably our great and distinguished keynote speaker, Madam Msweli, as well as Chevron Nigeria Limited for a truly wonderful lecture. As many of you may imagine, I have attended several of these lectures, and on each occasion, I say to myself, this is the best yet. And today is no different. This is the best one that I have attended. Perhaps because it is a hybrid of virtual and in-person, the infusion of technology, the segmentation. I like the various parts. The impact stories, they were wonderful. I also liked the spoken word by Master Oketola, as well as Kafayat Quadri. I don't know if she's still here. I mean, you're a woman of many parts and talents, obviously, a lawyer, a teacher, musician. Your singing spoke to us. It was wonderful. Even the lyrics, I listened to them and it really struck a chord.
I think it, as many speakers have said before me today, I think it is instructive that the topic for today is an amalgamation of youth and ecosystem restoration, as I think the two are intertwined, and you really can't have one without the other. I think it was Izoma Asiodu that said that it's obvious that the greatest beneficiaries of the ecosystem are the youth, and conversely, they will be impacted the most by a damaged ecosystem. So it was a good topic to choose for the moment. I would like to end my vote of thanks by just sharing a little incident that happened in the course of the lecture today. Me and the Mr. Dafinoni, Chief Dafinoni, noticed that a monkey came into the auditorium. I don't know what particular species of monkey it was, but I took a video. And conventional wisdom would say that they shy away from human habitation. So NCF must be doing something right here, that the monkey came in, sat, and it was almost as if he was taking, or he or she was taking in what was being said. So on that note, I thank you all once again. And I wish you all journey messages to your various destinations. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Boyega Edu, for representing the Chief SL Edu family for the vote of thanks. And let's also thank our guests, our numerous guests who joined us virtually, saying that this is a hybrid one. Those of us who joined us online, thank you very much for being a part of this edition of Chief SL Edu Memorial Lecture. And so we'd like to thank you all for being a part of this event. It is an end. We've come to an end of today's session. So for pictures and other interviews, we can go outside and have that done while we'll come back in for a short press briefing. So for pictures and other interviews, we can have them done outside. Thank you very much. Yeah, we're done.
So we're done.
Is it okay now? Please, gentlemen of the press, do not go. We still have a press briefing shortly after the pictures have been taken.
The Nigerian Conservation Foundation, with the support of National Park Service, trained 50 park rangers of Okomu National Park, Edo State, in March 2021 and empowered 240 members of neighboring communities through 2 separate intensive capacity building workshops. The core objective of the training was to improve the security and tourism infrastructure for the effective management of the park. Some of the items donated were drones, walkie-talkie, binoculars, GPS, computers, new uniforms, patrol motorcycles, among others. This was done with the financial contribution of the European Union and the African Caribbean Pacific group of states through the Biodiversity and Protected Areas Management Biopharma Program.
Yeah, my name is ACP Innocent Asuko. I am the coordinator of the NCF Bapama project in Okumu National Park. First and foremost, they carry out capacity building for the rangers. About 50 of them, they were trained in security anti-poaching patrol operations in the field. 12 communities were selected randomly. About 140 women, 100 men, and 100 youths were empowered. Starter items like fish, fingerlings, and their feet. Then, of course, the 4 weeks old chicks, as well as their feet, were also given out to them to start with. And of course, in the area of capacity building, they have also empowered the field officers in the area of security. Such they provide drones, 3 drones, 30 binoculars, 30 GPS, 5 GPS, 30 walkie-talkies, 2 laptops, and of course, and a complete full kit uniform supplied to them. This is to ensure that they carry out their duties in the field effectively. Aside from this, the Bapama intervention program also refurbished patrol vehicles, went as far as electrifying the ecotourism aspect of the park to boost ecotourism protection in the, management in the park.
Today's programs mark another relationship within the Okumu National Park and the coastal communities. And the Bapamas also, a few months ago, communities were called, were trained on the fingerlings, fishes, and bears were also given. So it is a thing of joy to every of us, especially those of us from different communities, to be invited to be part of what is the good thing that's going on within these conversative environment. It is my privilege to also express my views that gradually for the past years we are not recognized, but within the shortest possible time now, the presence of all the coastal communities were recognized and were invited to be part of the trainings and the retrainings and the skill acquisition that is also going on to train some of our women, some of our youths, and a lot of farmers as well who are beneficiaries of what's going on. So it is my great joy to say a big thank you to the head of this department, especially in Udo and Okumu, and all the workers as well. So I want to say thank you.
Okay, I am Mrs. Petra. I represented Okumu community. So the program, it was very helpful. At least I learned a lot. Even if I go anywhere, I'll be proud of what I learned from here. It's a very good program and it has helped me a lot. At least fishing and farming of chicken and so many things that was taught. So I think any community that participated will be proud.
It is indeed a mixed feeling of genuine joy, a deep sense of humility, and a very singular and rare opportunity that I play host to a federal minister. Okumu National Park, just as you are already aware, is one of the 7 old national parks in Nigeria. To the intervention by biodiversity and the Protected Area Management Program to provide technical and operational support to the Park Service, Okumu National Park, that we are gathered here today to witness the outcome. Allow me to briefly inform the Honorable Minister again that Okumu National Park has been and continue to be the brainchild of the Nigeria Conservation Foundation during the park's incipient phase as a wildlife sanctuary under the Edo state government, before it eventually metamorphosed into IUCN Category 2 protected area and taken over by the federal government. Since then, NCF, through its various resort-oriented programs, have continued to collaborate with the National Park Service to jointly turn the fortune of the service around. Today, Nigerian Conservation Foundation, through the action component of Baopama, choose Okomu National Park in order to continue to nurture its foster child to maturity by donating feed and security equipment to the service to galvanize effective feed operation in the park.
That is why we as development partners, we need to come together, especially in the face of increasing challenges confronting biodiversity conservation and practice and protected area management globally. The Biodiversity and Protected Area Management Biopama project, made it possible by the NCF-IUCN partnership with the support of the National Park Service, is an initiative of the Organization of Africa, Caribbean and Pacific countries, financed by the European Union's 11th European Development Fund, jointly implemented by the International Union for Conservation of Nature and the Joint Research Center of the European Commission, aimed at improving the long-term conservation and sustainable use of natural resources in priority protected areas and surrounding community surrounding support zones community. The Biopama Action Component activities provide equipment and tools for data, that is for biological security and protection, infrastructure, ecotourism, and information management, as well as services for improving the knowledge and capacity for protected area planning and decision-making, funding opportunities for specific site-based actions for which we are gathered here today.
Protected Area Management, which is the Biopama, a project in the Okomu National Park in Edo State. The Biopama program, as I have been made to understand, is an initiative of the Organization of African Union, Caribbean and Pacific States, financed by the European Union 11 European Development Fund. It's part of the EU Biodiversity for Life flagship initiative, which supports effort to halt the loss of biodiversity and ecosystem services.
When I see this and the way they are having the not used, we want to see them that they are getting tired, and that's why we also thought we just buy the motorcycle, but also buy the spare parts to ensure that it's going to do the work. So there are 10 of them, and we have the office equipment as well. One of the drones is what is being operational because we want remote sensing as well when it comes to. Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's the. We have one of the binoculars, and this is the GPS. That we have the GPS here. Yeah. This is a drone. One is already operational. And then that's the uniforms, the PPEs for the team members. That's the fingerlings. 5,000 fingerlings for catfish and their feet, body feet and the catfish feet. And the laptops are here. Yes, there need to be laptops. And then we have a Tola walkie-talkie for easy communication.
Testimonies of the members of the host communities and comments from the government officials we earlier had are testament to the effectiveness and impact of the Biopama program on Okomu National Park. Through this initiative, and on the strength of the NCF invitation, the Minister of the Environment and Conservator General visited the park for the first time since its establishment.